स्वागत है दोस्त चैनल पे।
भाई आज हम देखने जा रहे हैं इंडिया के कुछ यूनिक फैक्ट्स।
तो भाई बिना किसी देरी के शुरू करते हैं।
Now, the food there deserves a big shout out. First of all, Indians eat very little meat. In
भाई
fact,
इंडिया
they
में
have
जो
the
मीट
lowest meat
कंजम्पशन
consumption
पर है
per
वो
person
सबसे
in the
कम है
world.
वर्ल्ड में।
भाई सब
Most
ज्यादा
of their
इजराइल में
dishes
होता
are
है।
vegetarian, and meat is replaced with soy meat. This is mostly because 80% of the population is Hindu. Probably like you, I'd always heard that Hinduism requires a strictly
इंडिया में सबसे
vegetarian
ज्यादा
diet,
vegetarian
but that's not the
consumers हैं।
case. It's just because they believe not eating meat minimizes the hurt they bring to other living beings. That's definitely one of the things I learned during my travels, and I was
भाई इतनी
pleasantly
बढ़िया
surprised.
बात है यार ये।
Another thing about food in India is that it's all heavily spiced. That comes as no surprise,
भाई इंडिया की
really,
स्पाइसेस तो
since
वर्ल्ड
India
फेमस
is
है
well
यार।
known across the
World's
world as
largest
the biggest
producer of
spice producer
spices.
and exporter. But there's
And
one
exporter
region that
three.
stands out exclusively in this regard, the state of Kashmir. It's home to the most valuable spice ever, saffron. Sure,
कश्मीर में भाई
this
सब
is
ज्यादा
unique to
सैफरन
India.
पाई जाती
It
है।
also
यानी कि
grows in
केसर जिसे
Iran
हिंदी
and
में कहते
Spain. Kashmir, however, produces the highest quality and the most expensive saffron in the world. The town of
भाई
Kanpur
साहब।
is literally built around saffron fields. There are actually 3 varieties cultivated there. There's Mongra, the most expensive one, that costs
भाई
about
तीन varieties हैं
$1,600 a
saffron की
pound.
भी।
Then you've got Lacha, which,
$1,600
interesting
की
enough,
आधा
is
किलो।
less pricey at $1,000 per pound. Yet saffron farmers say it's the purest. And finally, there's Zarda.
भाई हमें तो बस
It's the
मोंगरा वाला
cheapest,
saffron
but only
पता है।
compared to other varieties, because $250 a pound isn't exactly what I call cheap. Anyway, India's spice game is definitely on point. So, I found a good place to eat, and as soon as I saw the menu, I
इंडिया का
remembered
फूड
that
तो
India
लाजवाब
is
है यार।
also
पूरे
famous
वर्ल्ड
for
में
its
कहीं
large
नहीं है।
variety of teas,
ऐसी
or as the
वेजिटेरियन की
locals
वैरायटी तो
call
मिलती
it,
है।
chai.
चाय
You
तो
should
भाई
see
भाई
the sheer
बाहर
number
ज्यादा
of
नॉन वेज
options.
मिलता है, इंडिया
I
में सिर्फ
never
वेज
thought
मिलेगा
there
भाई
could
हर
be that
जगह।
many types of tea. If you're a tea drinker, I'm sure you know Darjeeling and Assam. But have you ever
Darjeeling,
heard of
Assam, the
Karnataka
famous
or
tea है।
Kangra? Does Munnar ring a bell? I don't blame you. I had no idea that these kinds exist either, and those are just the tea-producing regions. There's even more once you get into the types of chai by adding particular spices and herbs.
भाई
Take, for
इंडिया टी
example,
का भी one of the
masala
biggest
chai,
producer
which is
है।
made with cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and herbs. I personally fell in love with butter tea. It's so thick and creamy. I could drink it by the gallon.
भाई मैंने तो
Basically,
butter
you
tea
take
पिया
tea
है।
leaves, some butter,
तो नाम
hot
ही पहली
water,
बार
and
सुना।
salt. Mix it all up and thank me later.
भाई इतनी चीजें मिला मुझे
With a
कुछ ना
full
कुछ तगड़ा
belly
बना
and
देता
plenty
है।
of chai pumping through my veins, I was ready for some sightseeing. I landed in New Delhi, so I spent the rest of the day walking around and taking in all the sights. Whenever I go abroad, I like to carry a little phrase book in the local language. Well, if you ever find yourself in India, you're gonna need a really big book because there are actually 22 officially recognized languages
And there
there.
are 22
English is among
official
them,
languages,
so
yeah.
I was okay just sticking to that.
और ये तो
But
सिर्फ
those
official
22
languages,
official
बाकी तो
languages are
700
just a
से
drop
ज़्यादा
in the huge
languages इंडिया में
linguistic
बोली
ocean
जाती
of
है
the
भाई।
country. By different accounts, there are from 122 to 300 major languages spoken in India, as well as up to 1,600 lesser-known ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, if you travel
कितनी
from one
ज़्यादा
town to
languages
another,
बोली जाती
you'll
हैं
hear
यहाँ।
people talking a different language. And if you happen to go to another state, you can forget everything you might have learned in your previous location. How they manage to
भाई
communicate
हर
with each
स्टेट
other
क्या
is
हर
still
शहर
beyond
से
me.
शहर में लैंग्वेज बदल जाती है।
New Delhi was awesome. I wish I could talk more about it, but I had a lot to see. I did find time to take a train up to Amritsar and see the Golden Temple.
Golden
How do I
Temple.
even begin to describe it? The whole thing is covered in gold and sits in the
एक
middle of
होता है
a
ऐसा
huge
बना
pool
temple
of
जो पूरा
water.
gold से
This is
बना
where
है।
the tradition of langar takes place. Langar is a vegetarian meal that's given to any and everyone who comes to the temple, regardless of their background or
भाई
beliefs.
आप कमेंट
Just
बताना
imagine,
किस-किसने
the
Golden
Golden
Temple का
Temple
लंगर खाया
provides a
है।
free meal to
मजा आ
over
जाता है।
50,000 people a day. And on
भाई
special
50,000
occasions,
बंदों को
it
एक
can
दिन में
feed up
मिला
to
जाता है। जब कोई स्पेशल
200,000.
ओकेजन
I
होता
got
है
a
2
free meal
लाख के
too,
people के
and
लिए
it was
बनता है।
really delicious. You can volunteer there as well. I did just that because I was in so much awe about the place, I didn't want to leave. What I actually regret is that I didn't get to see the Kumbh Mela in action. It's one of the greatest
Kumbh Mela.
celebrations of India,
World
and apparently
largest
it's a sight to
gathering
behold.
होती है कुंभ मेला। भाई,
In
even
2011,
space से भी
so
उसको
many
देखा जा सकता
pilgrims
है।
gathered in one place that the whole congregation of
भाई
75
7 करोड़
million
50
people
लाख
was even
लोग भाई
visible
एक
from
जगह इकट्ठे
space.
होते हैं।
This year, it's taking place from January until
भाई
early
इतनी तो
March.
कई देशों
So
की
if you've seen it
population
with your
होती
own
है।
eyes, just know that I'm so jealous.
भाई 2011 में कुंभ मेला
In
तो
fact,
space से भी
whatever
busy
India
होता है।
does, it does it on a huge scale. For example, it has the largest number of
World में
post
सबसे ज़्यादा
offices in the
post
world.
office India में
Wherever you go, you'll stumble upon one literally on every corner. The irony of this is that it doesn't really help the situation with delivery times. One Indian guy told me it's totally normal to wait for your package to be delivered in 2 weeks' time, even if it was sent from a nearby town. But hey, patience is a virtue. But it doesn't stop there. India places third in terms of the number of Guinness World Record holders. The world's fastest nose typer, the most expensive wedding ever held, and the most selfies taken together are just a few of the bizarre world records held in this country. What else? The largest railroad network in the world? Check. Well, almost, since the United States does technically have more. But anyway, India has built over 3.5 million miles of railroads, which, considering the smaller size of the country, still means easier transit within and between different locations. With that in mind, it shouldn't really be a huge surprise that Indian Railways is also the largest employer in the world. It has over 1 million employees. And considering the country's extensive railway network, these people are scattered throughout India. From the smallest villages to the biggest cities, the number of jobs grows every year. So it looks like you could always get a job there if you're looking for employment in India. Anyway, what can I say about my final impressions? I was blown away, and I seriously didn't want to leave this fascinating place. Visiting it was like going to a whole new world for me. I tried to get as many souvenirs as I could, but I almost forgot one important thing. If you ever go there, by the way, you'd better remember it too. No one is allowed to take India's national currency in or out of the country. It's actually against the law, so make sure you change your money before you cross the border. I almost made this mistake, and off I went. Headed back home with my suitcase full of exotic stuff and my head pulsing with impressions.
इंडिया बेस्ड यूट्यूब चैनल टी सीरीज भाई टी सीरीज दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा चैनल है इंडियंस भी वो लोग हैं जिनने यूएसबी इन्वेंट करी थी
Can you tell me anything else about India that I missed? I'm definitely going to go back, so leave me some recommendations down in the comments too. And if you enjoyed hearing my story, then give this video a like, share it with your friends, and hit the subscribe button to join me on the bright side of life.
वीडियो बनाई है, प्लीज जाकर उनकी वीडियो चेकआउट करना, चैनल चेकआउट करना, सब्सक्राइब करना। बाकी आप कमेंट बताना, आप अगर इंडिया में रहते हो आपने कौन कौन सी चीजें विजिट करी है, कहाँ की कौन सी फेमस चीजें विजिट करी है
और कौन सा फूड अच्छा लगता है,
आपको कौन सा फूड अच्छा लगता है। तो भाई वीडियो अच्छी लगी तो वीडियो को लाइक कर देना,
चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर देना।
मिलते हैं जल्दी नेक्स्ट वीडियो में,
तब तक के लिए गुड बाय।